atmosphere, it creates a sonic boom. We see this with the space shuttle, with SpaceX launches that come back down, and we see them with meteorites, meteorite falls. When an asteroid, a fragment of an asteroid, comes through the atmosphere, it survives because it's large enough and the angle was just right on the Earth. It breaks apart and hundreds of stones fall to the ground. If it happens in a populated area, which it sounds like this one did, you're going to potentially get rocks hitting houses and that kind of thing.
And those rocks hitting houses, how fast estimated would they be traveling? Do they slow down a lot? Obviously, they slow down quite a bit in Earth's atmosphere, but if they're creating a sonic boom, they must be moving quickly with a lot of force.
They are moving very fast, and when they hit Earth's atmosphere, they could be going 50,000 miles per hour or faster, but they quickly decelerate, and by the time they come and they stop all their cosmic velocity at like 20,000 or 30,000 feet up, and by the time they hit your roof, they're going about the speed of a golf ball or maybe a little bit faster. So still hundreds of miles an hour, but a far cry from the 50,000 miles an hour.
Is it safe to say, Mike, that the people who thought that they felt an earthquake or they heard that boom, that in fact was from this, are you classifying it as a fireball, a meteor, a meteorite? How are you classifying it?
This would be technically considered a bolide because it explodes. And when a meteor comes in, it'll just be a normal meteor or a shooting star for like a Bootid or a Perseid meteor. And then the next step up is a fireball where it's brighter than the planet Venus up to the full moon. And when we get brighter than that, especially when it explodes in this terminal flash and it's accompanied with the sonic booms and the meteorites, those are called bolides. And that just means that the body broke apart in its flight in.
And we want to say thanks so much, of course, to WXIA meteorologist Melissa, as well as can't even talk today, you guys, American Meteor Society Operations Manager Mike for doing that interview. I want to give you guys a quick update on what is happening outside before we rock and roll and we head out of here at just about 30 seconds or so. But severe thunderstorm warning. We just had a new one pop up here. This is for Cabarrus County, Iredell County, and Rowan County. Of course, I will be in the Weather Center keeping a close eye on these as we go throughout the evening. So again, this is the one we were tracking earlier, just outside of Landis, just outside of China Grove. Definitely starting to see some heavy rain there in Kannapolis. Heavy rain, gusty winds, some small hail, all possible. Again, we'll pop into streaming if necessary. If not, we'll see you back at WCNC Charlotte for another weather update at 11 o'clock. Stay tuned for more from Vanessa.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for Live Impact News Evening Edition. I'm Vanessa Rufus. We'll be together for the next 2 hours as we take a look at everything that is breaking and happening right now in the world, and of course the community as well. One of the big topics we saw in our area, of course, we talked about today in the evening news here on WCNC Plus, and that is the approval of some funding for Helene recovery. That's a package that we've been seeing lawmakers trying to push through. There was a compromise that was essentially established, and so now bill that has now passed both chambers of the General Assembly is on its way to Governor Stein's desk to be signed. We talked about Helene recovery still underway, and just the fact that there are so many incredible stories that are coming out of this wake of tragedy. Of course, totally devastating situation for so many communities, particularly in our high country, but we do see a lot of heroics that have come from the situation, and we're actually very pleased to talk about one of those events being honored with a pretty big award. So we talked about this, we previewed this on the evening news, the fact that there's a gentleman named Eddie Hunnell who is about to get the Carnegie Medal. This is North America's highest civilian honor for heroism, and this is due to his actions back on September 27th when there was massive flooding from the North Fork New River. Now you're seeing here some video and some images from that incident where there was a woman who the floodwaters had basically taken her home off of the foundation and started to carry it away. And so Mr. Hunnell basically took a life vest and tried to get into the water and save her life, and inevitably did. So we wanted to hear more about that story, and we wanted to speak to Eddie about all that experience taught him and what it means now to be honored with this Carnegie Medal. So Eddie's joining us here on Live Impact News. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So Eddie, we understand that you were actually in that place at that time because you were there for a wedding rehearsal. So not even, probably supposed to be in that area. Otherwise, if not for that event that brought you there. Can you talk about what you saw when you first started to see this scene develop, and when you knew that something dangerous was going on, somebody needed help?
Yeah, we had heard about a neighbor was talking inside the bed and breakfast we were staying at, saying that a woman was caught in her house, and so we all walked over there. The entire wedding party, which was 16 people at the time, was supposed to be 42, but because of the storm, nobody else could get there. And we showed up at the house, which was only a couple 100-yard walk, and it was completely surrounded by water up to about 10 feet. The water was up to the bottom of the second floor of the house. And we spent about 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out how to get Leslie out of there. Her husband was out. He had been tying up things in the yard and trying to move things. And then the next thing you know, the house was, the water had risen 5-6 feet and he couldn't get her out. And so anyway, after about 15 or 20 minutes, we kind of were out of ideas on how to get her out. And then about 15 minutes later, a house came down, hit their house, and house came off the foundation, and then she was in the water, and then we didn't have much more time.
Yeah, I mean, we were seeing some videos. It looked like just after the rescue, where we could see Leslie Worth is the name of the woman you saved, climbing up onto the bank. We saw a canoe there in the river as well. We understand that, as we alluded to before, you put on a life vest, you got into a canoe and you tried to get to her, but that didn't work. Is that what I understand?
The water going around the house was really fast because, separated, funneled around the house. But behind the house, it wasn't moving very fast just because the house and some trees below the house were in the way. And so I tried to canoe up to the house from below. And I probably could have done it if there was a second person in the canoe rowing, but we only had one life vest. So didn't want to risk somebody else in the water without a life vest. But we tried to get to the house, and if we could have gotten close, we could have grabbed the branches of the trees and pulled ourselves the rest of the way. but we just couldn't get there. I couldn't get there in the canoe with the water moving. Again, not too fast right behind the house, but fast enough.
Now, I mean, we understand that your profession is software engineer. Do you have any sort of rescuing background or training? Because, I mean, it sounded like you did a lot of swimming, too, to have to get to her.
Well, I grew up swimming on a swim team from the age of 6 or 7 through high school. I almost swam in college. And when I was 17 and 18, I did take lifeguard training and was a lifeguard. But that was a long time ago. And, other than that, no, I haven't had any training. I also grew up swimming in rivers and floating rivers as an adult, fishing out west. And so, I have a lot of time on the river, but no, don't have a lot of, other than lifeguard training, any rescue experience.
What did Leslie say to you after you saved her?
I think she was in shock, and thank you and gave me a big hug before we even got out of the river. She's very appreciative. She's a wonderful woman. Her husband Phil's a wonderful guy, and so glad that this ended the way it did.
I mean, we understand that she ended up joining you at the rehearsal dinner that you were supposed to be going to, and
yeah, the rehearsal was canceled because like I said, 16 of the 42 people were there. No one else could get there. A lot of my family was on the other side of the river. Had flooded the only road to the bed and breakfast, and so they were not far away, but they were in some other Airbnbs, and nobody could get there. So we kind of canceled the rehearsal. We still had the food we had to eat, and they had, when you sit there and watch somebody's house float away, it's hard to express the impact of that everything in their life just went down that river. Phil was at that meal in the clothes he's in the river in, that you can see him in the video, still wearing the same clothes because we didn't have anything else to give him. We had gotten Leslie a change of clothes, and they had to eat. We had to eat, so we invited him to the dinner.
Are you keeping in touch going forward?
I was literally texting with them, and 15 minutes ago, they by chance texted me.
Oh my!
So yeah, no, we're trying to figure out a time to get there. Life's so busy with teenage daughter, and both my wife and I work, and they're building their house back, fortunately, now. So everybody's busy, but we're trying to figure out a time to get up there. I'd love to get up there and see him.
Yeah. Do you ever think about just how you ended up in that place at that time, and with the skills that you have, and the wherewithal that you have, and
it's actually a little bit even weirder than that. The land that was on was in my wife's family since the late 1700s. And they had owned that land for 150 years and had donated it to the state of North Carolina back in the 1930s, I think it was. And so the reason that we were there in the first place was my son thought it would be neat to have the wedding there, because that house, that bed and breakfast, was my wife's great grandfather's, or maybe, I don't know how many greats, 2 or 3 greats, Brack's grandfather's house. And so he thought, and if you read the history of that inn, it's about the Ballou family, which is my wife's, on the mother's side, family. And so then Leslie's a nurse, retired nurse, and she had actually taken care of some of my wife's, the Ballou family's, relatives back in the 80s. As a nurse, so it's kind of a weird, a lot of connections there.
That's just incredible to think about how your lives and families seemingly intertwined in certain ways, going back farther than you even knew.
Even though I didn't know her, and yet we've had contacts with our families for 40 or 50 years.
It's absolutely incredible. Can you talk about being honored with this Carnegie Medal?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's a weird feeling, that we were so focused on getting that rehearsal and then that wedding to go off, and this happened, and it was about a 35-minute event. It was a very important and significant event, especially for Phil and Leslie. And then we were back to the wedding. So I don't know. I feel like, gosh, I did something for 4 minutes, and it seems like a lot has come of that. And I know it was important and impacted their lives tremendously, and it's impacted mine with this award and a bunch of interviews and stuff. So it's a little odd. It seems like, I don't know, I'm not sure. It's hard to describe.
I mean, I'm sure, at the time you were not thinking about, oh, I'm going to get a medal with this. You were thinking about
No,
saving a woman's
I
life.
didn't even know.
Yeah.
My 16, 15 at the time year old daughter videoed the last 7 or 8 minutes of this. I didn't even know she was videoing it. We were so focused on how do we save Leslie that I didn't even know it was on camera, let alone think about interviews or awards or something. It's very nice, but it seems like a lot.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I know the reason this story is so special to so many people and so inspiring is it just really illustrates, the epitome of neighbors helping neighbors, which is, we saw in so many different shapes and forms during Helene. And I know you're from North Carolina, so you understand. And obviously you lived through parts of it too. And I mean, if you could reflect back on, Helene as an event, the aftermath, what has it taught you about community and about, the Western North Carolina area overall?
I've been in a couple of floods. I've been in a hurricane back in, what was it, 96? I don't remember when. And, at those times, as wonderful as our police and fire and rescue and all that members are, and the sacrifices they make, they can't be there 100% of the time. They showed up to help Leslie 20 minutes later. I don't fault them. They had a lot going on that day. But you have to help out your neighbor, because one day it's going to be you that needs that help. And so I was glad I was able to do that for them.
Yeah. Well, I'm really hopeful that y'all will get to reunite and catch up and have a great conversation and maybe enjoy some non-stressful experiences together.
Yes, we have seen them once since. We're trying to get to see them again.
Perfect. Anything that you'd like to leave us with, just about this experience, about Helene in general? I mean, this is something that we talked about, it continues to impact our community. Folks are still trying to bounce back. Folks still need help. And I know that's going to have to remain in the forefront for our mindset, as we try to continue to think about our neighbors in need.
Yeah, and to your question about how this affected things or helping neighbors, I think the reason this story blew up so much was that there was so much tragedy. It was such a bad impact to Western North Carolina that, as you said, they still need so much help. And this was a good story that came out of it, but there's 100 or 1,000 other good stories of just neighbors helping neighbors. And I'd encourage anybody that sees an opportunity to continue to help out. They need a lot of help out there.
Yeah. Well said. All right. Eddie, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again on the award, and thank you for what you did that day.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, folks. We hope you enjoyed that conversation here on Live Impact News. We certainly did. We always love to tell the good stories as many times as we can. Of course, we'll remind you once again that recovery still is underway in the High Country, and some of you who have been tuned in here to Live Impact News over recent weeks have seen some of the interviews we've been bringing you from folks in the High Country, not just neighbors needing help, but also businesses too. Of course, neighbors in other ways, but businesses have been talking about folks really needing to come up to the mountains, visit them. They're relying on support as well. So we'll keep you posted as recovery and relief efforts are ongoing. We talked about the fact that this new funding package, this relief package, had just passed the General Assembly. So more on those impacts to come here on WCNC Plus. All right, with that, we want to turn to a big event from just a few moments ago. Here is the president hosting this One Big Beautiful event, as he's called it. And this is, of course, as we are looking towards the very end of the week, where we think that the Senate is poised to have a vote on this bill. This would pass along a lot of the president's agenda if it passes as is, and it has already passed the House. So he did spend some time very recently here, just a few moments ago, as we mentioned, trying to drum up even more support We mentioned earlier here in this afternoon when we were hearing from some senators talking about how they feel about this bill, there are still some holdouts, even within the president's own party, over either spending cuts, some folks saying it doesn't go far enough, and others saying that they're concerned to certain cuts that are going to be happening. So let's listen in to this so-called One Big Beautiful event.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a good-looking group behind me. This group isn't too bad either. Very nice. Nice to be with you. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here to support one of the most important pieces of legislation in the history of our country. And that's everybody saying that, virtually everybody. The one big, beautiful bill to secure our borders, turbocharge our economy, and bring back the American dream. That's what's happening too. It's met with tremendous approval and reception. And when we were thinking about doing it, we were going to break it down into 3, 4, 5, 6, or even 7 bills. And I said, let's make it one big, beautiful bill, Mike, right? They actually said it would be very much harder to get this way, but it would be better. And the truth is, I think it worked out well because there's something for everybody, and I think in many ways much better. We're delighted to be joined by Secretaries Marco Rubio, Scott Bessent, Pete Hegseth, Doug Burgum, Doug Collins, Sean Duffy, Howard Lutnick, Linda McMahon, Brooke Rollins, Scott Turner, Chris Wright. Wow, that's a hell of a group. I think that's the biggest group of cabinet members. That's the biggest group of cabinet, and we're not finished yet because we have our great Attorney General Pam Bondi here. U.S. Trade Representative, and he's working around 24 hours. We have them one after another. Countries come. Everybody wants to be with us because we have the hottest country in the world. A year ago, we had a disaster on our hand. We had the coldest country, I think, by far. And now we have the hottest. The King of Saudi Arabia, when I was there, we brought back $5.1 trillion between Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And all three said, great leaders, they all said to me the same thing. You know, it's amazing. In 4 months at that time, now it's getting to be close to 6. But in 4 months, they said, you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's not even close. And they thought we were dead a year before that. They said, I thought you were dead. The country was dead. And it was pretty close to it. But we have the hottest country in the world, so it's great. And Trade Representative Jamieson Greer is very busy because, where are you, Jamieson? Everybody wants to make a deal and have a part of it, right? I know you and Howard and Scott are working overtime, making deals with other countries. Remember a few months ago, the press was saying, do you really have anybody of any interest? Well, we just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%. That's the easy way to do it. And my people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one, where we're going to open up India. In the China deal, we're starting to open up China, things that never really could have happened. And the relationship with every country has been very good. And we also have OMB Director, who's very busy also, Russ Vogt. Thank you. Thank you, Russ. And also, I want to give a very special thank you. This is a hell of a group we have here. This is amazing, the quality of people, but actually I like these people and most of those people much better than the people I just named, okay? But a very special thanks as well to Speaker Mike Johnson, who's a great, legendary guy. He's going to go down as a legend. A great friend of mine, a fantastic Senator, Roger Marshall, wherever you may be. Roger, thank you very much. Thank you. Bernie Moreno, great win Bernie had in Ohio. Bernie, great win. That was a tough race. They said that was not winnable, and he won by about 5 points, so that was pretty good. So much for not winnable. Mike Lee is here. Mike, hi, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Tim Sheehy, another tremendous win. Way to go, Tim. Young, handsome. That was another race that wasn't supposed to be able to be won. They said, well, we have a very young, handsome guy. I said, does that matter? Looks don't matter, do they, Mike? Looks. Anyway, great job. You can't help it. You can't help it. Great. That was a great race, along with Representatives Paul Gosar, Greg Murphy, Tom Kaine, Jen Kiggins, Rob Bresnahan, who's a, where is Rob? Stand up, Rob. Let me see you. Good. He's done a fantastic job. And Ryan McKenzie. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you all. That's great. It's a big group of people. We're here this afternoon to share the stories of an incredible group of patriots from across the nation whose future we are defending with the one big, beautiful bill. This is the ultimate codification of our agenda to, very simply, a phrase that's been used pretty well by me over the last 10 years, but maybe even before that, make America great again. Very simple, make America great again. When Joe Biden used to get up and say, we will stop this horrible MAGA. We're going to stop MAGA. We're going to fight it. We're going to, I said, Joe, loosen up. It's called Make America Great Again. It's okay. Remember that he got up so angry. He was so angry. He said, make America great again. But we'll deliver.
All right, folks, we're going to break away from this event for just a moment. We'll bring you back as soon as we can. But we've got some breaking news just into our Live Impact News studio. Governor Josh Stein has issued a statement on social media just now regarding the actions that happened in the General Assembly this week. We just referenced this just a few moments ago, the fact that General Assembly did push through this last-minute Helene funding package, and this was actually all before they're set to adjourn. So they've now adjourned, but the governor seemingly expressing here some displeasure with the fact that Senate and House did not pass the new budget for fiscal year 2026 before taking, excuse me, such an adjournment. So he's issued this statement. We have it for you here on your screen. He says Senate and House failed to come together to meet the needs of North Carolinians before the start of the new budget year. While I am gratified that the legislature took action to get more Helene funding out the door, we face many other urgent challenges across the state, he says, that need to be addressed through a fiscally responsible full budget. He goes on to say our teachers, law enforcement, and other state employees deserve real pay raises so we can recruit and retain the best. In addition, at a time when the federal government is proposing severe cuts to Medicaid, leaving Raleigh without taking steps to fully fund North Carolina's Medicaid program is responsible. He finishes up by saying here, I stand ready to work with the General Assembly to invest in our people and expand opportunities so every person can succeed. So once again, that's a statement from Governor Josh Stein of North Carolina regarding the General Assembly actions. And in his opinion, as you see here, lack of action on some front. We should mention, of course, there are going to be questions about, with this lack of new budget, what will happen, right? So we're seeing as the legislature is now off for basically much of the summer now going forward for vacation. We've got the Helene budget that passed, so there will be money flowing for that, but it could be several months before other parts of state government get new funding. So we're talking about schools and prisons, public health. There wouldn't be a shutdown. So this would be different than when we talk about this on a federal level. State agencies would continue to operate at their current levels. There could be some impacts. Here are a few. Schools, community colleges, public universities that are growing would essentially receive what's effectively a budget cut. because their funds would be enrollment based. There's a lack of a budget that would mean teachers and other state workers don't get any new raises as the new fiscal year kicks off. And then there could be some impacts to projects, construction, road widening, and other funding ideas that were identified for funding in 2025. Budget plans wouldn't move forward quite yet. So something to keep an eye on, of course, and we are committed to bringing you the very latest on that front. With that, we'll go ahead and turn you back to this One Big Beautiful Bill event that the president headlined, I guess you will say, just a few moments ago. And we'll bring you back in progress right where we left off.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you, Russ. And also, I want to give a very special thank you. This is a hell of a group we have here. This is amazing, the quality of people, but actually I like these people and most of those people much better than the people I just named, okay? But a very special thanks as well to Speaker Mike Johnson, who's a great, legendary guy. He's going to go down as a legend. A great friend of mine, a fantastic Senator, Roger Marshall, wherever you may be. Roger, thank you very much. Thank you. Bernie Moreno, great win Bernie had in Ohio. Bernie, great win. That was a tough race. They said that was not winnable, and he won by about 5 points, so that was pretty good. So much for not winnable. Mike Lee is here. Mike, hi, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Tim Sheehy, another tremendous win. Way to go, Tim. Young, handsome. That was another race that wasn't supposed to be able to be won. They said, well, we have a very young, handsome guy. I said, does that matter? Looks don't matter, do they, Mike? Looks. Anyway, great job. You can't help it. You can't help it. Great. That was a great race, along with Representatives Paul Gosar, Greg Murphy, Tom Kaine, Jen Kiggins, Rob Bresnahan, who's a, where is Rob? Stand up, Rob. Let me see you. Good. He's done a fantastic job. And Ryan McKenzie. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you all. That's great. It's a big group of people. We're here this afternoon to share the stories of an incredible group of patriots from across the nation whose future we are defending with the One Big Beautiful Bill. This is the ultimate codification of our agenda to, very simply, a phrase that's been used pretty well by me over the last 10 years, but maybe even before that, make America great again. Very simple, make America great again. When Joe Biden used to get up and say, we will stop this horrible MAGA, we're going to stop MAGA, we're going to fight it, we're going to, I said, Joe, loosen up. It's called Make America Great Again. It's okay. Remember that he got up so angry. He was so angry. He said, make America great again. But we'll deliver a record tax cut, a record spending cut, a record investment in border security. We've done so well on the border. You know, last month, we had 0 people that crossed the border. 0. So Christy and Tom Homan and some of the people, what a job you've done. But you know, people forget about that. They don't care. The border's been fixed. I wanted to talk about the border 2 days ago at a big group. Sir, they don't want to hear about the border. Why? It's fixed. You know, it's the second time it happened to me. In 2016, I won on the border. I fixed it in about 3 months. It was beautiful. And they wouldn't let me talk about the border. Sir, nobody wants to hear about the border. But we're going to talk about it anyway. Right, Tom Homan? We're talking about it anyway. So we have a big number of dollars that's coming here because we want to keep it that way, and we want to keep it fixed, and a record number of deportations. We're bringing criminals out by the thousands. Nobody can even imagine. They let people in that were murderers, 11,888 murderers, gang members, people from mental institutions, and insane asylum. You know what that is? That's insane asylum. That's a mental institution on steroids. During the campaign, I talk about the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Do you know who that is, Hannibal Lecter? Silence of the Lambs. I'd talk about it, and the fake news would go crazy. Why does he keep mentioning? Well, because we won in a landslide. That's why they don't want to have Hannibal in our midst. And today I signed this bill into law. Almost every major promise made in the 2024 campaign already will have become a promise kept. And that's very important. Promises made, promises kept. And according to the Council of Economic Advisors, these reforms will protect or create more than 7 million jobs, add 3.1% to economic growth, reduce taxes for the typical American by nearly 15%, and increase take-home pay for the normal family of four by at least $13,000. And that takes place immediately. That's not bad, right? Look, I'm looking at that guy back there, right? That's pretty good. And if we had a person over at the Fed that would lower interest rates a little bit, that would be helpful too. It's hard to believe. This is on top of, we have to fight this guy. He's not doing the job. Each point that he keeps it up is the equivalent of $300 billion. $300 billion. So if he lowered it to, it would save $600 billion. We have to work hard with cuts on that, right? That's a lot of cutting. And this guy could do it so easily. We don't have inflation. Well, we might have inflation. Yeah, and if you do, you raise the rate a little bit. That's okay. But we're going out because Biden gave us a lot of short-term debt. And given the short-term debt, he did us no favor. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably just extend the short-term debt and then go out, because I don't want to tie it up for 10 or 15 years at a high rate. But every point is it's really more, is $300 billion. So if we got it down to 1%, we're talking about almost $1 trillion in saving just with the stroke of a pen. No work, no missing anything, just like an accounting situation. Oh, Doug Collins, I just see Doug. Did I mention you, Doug? I don't think so. I'm glad I saw you. I'm glad that somebody's going to be in big trouble with you. They didn't write your name down, Doug. Somebody's in big, somebody's in, I got you. So we think of that, though. We save, and all you have to do, it's so simple. I'm explaining to this guy, and Biden extended him. That wasn't good. I'm explaining to him, you can do so much for our country. You could save $1 trillion just with a stroke of a pen. Just the utterance of a sentence that we're going to be cutting. It's a shame. It's a shame. We're one of the highest. We should be the lowest. With the United States of America, we'd have money coming in like at levels that they have never seen. I got a call the other day from the people in Congress because we're doing our bill. I didn't even tell you this, Mike, and they called. They said, there's something wrong with the numbers, sir. I said, what's wrong? I don't know. They're not balancing out. There's something really wrong. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, we don't know. I said, what's the problem? We're taking in much more money than we have scheduled. I said, so far that sounds good. They said, how much is it? About $80 billion. I said, do me a favor, check the tariff line. They called me back an hour later. Sir, we've taken in $88 billion in tariffs. Isn't that a beautiful thing? $88 billion. I thought I'd tell these little stories. Go off script and tell these little stories, Scott, right? Because it does make it a little more interesting. Although my speechwriters have just gotten every award in the book. Vince, where are you, Vince? Good. Where are we? Where's Ross? He's gotten all these awards, and I'm going off the record all the time. Where is he? He didn't show up to the speech. He wrote the speech. He didn't show. Well, that means he has confidence in me. According to the Council of Economic Advisors, these reforms will protect or create more than 7 million jobs, add 3.1% to economic growth, reduce taxes for the typical American by nearly 15%, and increase take-home pay for a normal family by an incredible $13,000. All of these things are happening. And by the way, there's no inflation. All of the numbers I gave you, all of the money that's coming in, and maybe more importantly than the billions of dollars we're taking in with tariffs, is the fact that we've got hundreds of plants going up all over the United States that never would have been here. I was with Howard and Scott and Texas Instruments the other day, and the head of Texas Instruments, they're going to spend $60 billion in the United States. And he said, "Sir, please don't do it to me." And I looked at him. I knew exactly what he meant. He said, "You mean tariffs, right?" He said, "That's right. If you ever get rid of those tariffs, you've cost me a fortune." They're all coming in because they don't want to pay the tariffs, and they're coming in at levels. And it only works for the United States because it doesn't work for other countries, but it works for us. We have a record investment. We have records and everything. And when these places open up, that's bigger than the $15 trillion that I'm talking about. You know, you don't see it right away. But bigger is the fact that they're all coming in, they're building their factories, the AI factories and the auto plants. We have auto plants, they're closing up in other countries. I don't want to specifically name the countries, but you know who they are. And they're coming into the U.S. and they're opening up and building like nobody's ever seen anything like it. I don't call it a miracle. I call it, this should have been done 40 years ago. We would have never lost our auto. We lost 50% of our auto industry to China, Mexico, Canada, and various other countries. Should have never happened if you had a president that said, "We're going to charge you tariffs. You're not going to build next to us. Send it in and take away our jobs." If you would have said 25, 50, or 100% tariff, not one company would have left. But they weren't business people. They were politicians, not very good ones, and some good ones, but some really not good at anything, to be honest with you. We're going to stop the largest tax hike, and we're going to do that in history. This would be, if the bill doesn't pass, there'll be a 68% tax increase. Think of that, 68%, which would be the largest in history by about 40 points. And we'll make the Trump tax cuts permanent, expand the child tax credit, and we will deliver no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Among the countless citizens who will benefit from these tax cuts is Malachi Krzyzewski, a devoted mom and DoorDash driver from Ripon, Wisconsin, who uses her tip income to support her son. Just think of that, no tax on tips. And it was a very big problem. I was at a dinner in my beautiful building in Las Vegas, and unrelated to this, and I said, "What's going on?" I will never say good-looking waitress because looks don't matter anymore, you know, in our modern society. She happened to be beautiful, but I won't say that. I won't mention that. But nevertheless, a waitress came over, and I said, "How are you doing?" She said, "Not good, sir." "Why?" "The government is killing me on tips." And she looked at me, she said, "Sir, there should be no tax on tips." I said, "Say it again." "There should be no tax on tips." I said, "That's the coolest thing I've ever heard." I walked outside. The press was there, as always, waiting for something bad to happen, hundreds of them. I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please announce tonight there will be no tax on tips." And a legend was made. We won Nevada by so much. Republicans don't win Nevada. We won Nevada. So I want to thank that young, beautiful waitress. Thank you very much. But with no tax on tips and other cuts, this bill will save Malachi thousands of dollars per year, enabling her to achieve her goal of visiting every U.S. state with her son. She wants to visit every state by the time he's 18 years old. So, Malachi, it sounds to me like you're off to a fantastic start. And where are you, Malachi? Where are you? Congratulations. Thank you. Great. That's good. Thank you. Also with us today is Luke Wilson, a 23-year-old electrical lineman. He loves being an electrician, but in this case, the lineman. And these are guys that take big risk, and it's hard stuff. But if you know what you're doing, it's fine. He's from Harmony, Pennsylvania, as well as Dee Sova, a truck driver from Springfield, Missouri, where, by the way, our beautiful planes landed, our B-2s. They landed after 36 hours of flying. Great going, Pete. And they hit the target. And they hit the target, and the target has now been proven to be obliterated, just as we said. We had little fake news from CNN. Thank you very much, CNN, for that. With 3 million miles of driving under her belt, who mentors other women in her industry. And I just want to say, Luke and Dee spend countless hours working overtime to help make this country run. And This bill, the typical overtime worker like them will take home nearly $1,500 extra every single year. So you're talking about at least $1,500, and there will be no harassment because you were being harassed by the Democrats. So Luke and Dee, congratulations to you both. Thank you very much. Congratulations, wherever you may be. Thank you. Thank you very much. Also with us is James Benson, a third-generation auto worker from Belleville, Michigan, who has spent 26 years at Ford Motor Company, which is doing very well. They have a lot of plants in this country. If you have plants in this country, you're going to make a lot of money. And is a member of a tremendous group of people, auto workers. And I'll tell you, we love these people. Auto workers for Trump, and I came through for them, but they were with me long before I really thought. A lot of people said, is he going to run again? Will he run? They've always been with me, the auto workers. James was a lifelong Democrat until 2017, when he saw the benefits of our tax law, and he also liked Trump. Now, sometimes they can like the law, but if they don't like the candidate, it's not going to matter, right? Is that right, Marco? Marco knows, because he has been one hell of a great Secretary of State, right? Stand up, Marco. Everybody respects Marco, right? True. Everybody respects him. Now we're delivering an even bigger win for the auto workers by making interest on car payments fully tax deductible. You know, that's something only rich people seem to have gotten. I said, you know, and that was my idea. It's pretty simple. But I said, you know, the rich people, they always looking for deductions. We want deductions. Linda, did I say, will you please stand up? Linda McMahon. So great. How much is Harvard going to be charged? How much are you asking for Harvard? Because they really have violated a lot of different caveats, haven't they? Huh? A lot, like a lot. They've been given $5 billion over the years. Can you imagine? And that's over a short number of years. That's just the beginning. They have $52 billion sitting in the bank, and they haven't been nice to our country. So I want to thank Linda McMahon, who's been really fantastic. But I said, on interest, I said, why couldn't we, if a car is made in the United States only, because otherwise we don't care if it's made someplace else, give the people that buy the car a deduction on the interest that they're paying to buy the car. And people said, what a great idea. It's so simple. It's like the paperclip. Somebody came up with the idea of a paperclip many years ago, 1817. And he became a very rich person. And everybody looked at it and said, why the hell didn't I think of that? But it's like the paperclip, but only if the car is made in America. Remember that, James. We're going to keep those Michigan auto factories roaring. And as you know, we won Michigan by a lot, Susie, right? We won Michigan by a big margin, and something that typically is not easy, but I think we've won it. I actually think we've won it 3 times in a row. So it's been a great state, but a big factor with the auto workers. They went with us very big, and I love them. The One Big Beautiful Bill will also be an incredible victory for American farmers, another group that we did great with, especially family farmers like James Cullifer of Virginia Beach. Our bill will provide 100% expensing so they can buy a new farm equipment. And by the way, the expensing is good for everybody, not just farmers. And it'll virtually eliminate the so-called estate tax or the death tax. So you have a farm, you leave it to your children. If you like the children, you leave it. If you don't worry about the details. No, some people don't want to leave them. They don't like their kids, you know? Anybody in here not liking their children, farmers? But if you like your kids, you want to leave it. And a lot of times what was happening before I got there, because I put this in the first tax bill, as you know, but people would die. They'd leave their farm. There was no cash, but there was value to the farm, sometimes good value. It's called real estate rich and cash poor. And the kids had no money, and they'd be foreclosed out by a bank. They'd borrow money to pay the estate tax. You don't have to pay estate tax anymore. That's pretty big stuff. So for the farmers and for others in small business, it's great. But James's family has been working in the land for generations, and with this bill, we will ensure that family farms like his can stay in the family for many generations to come. Where's James? James, you around? Where's James? Yeah. That's great. And you know what I mean, James, right? People pass away, they love their kids or whoever they're leaving, but they love their kids especially and you won't have the family farmer anymore the long time because they were losing them to the banks, and they were losing them at record numbers. Not going to happen anymore. There's no tax. We're also going to empower American parents by expanding opportunity scholarships to provide school choice. School choice is a big deal. And we just got school working with the governor of Texas, as you know, Greg Abbott. We just had it passed in Texas, and I know about that. Somebody said, yeah, that was a big deal. They've been trying to get it for 9 years, and they asked me if I'd call the legislature, Republicans in the legislature, and I did. And then I gave them a pep talk, and everybody voted for it. First time, they were shocked. But they never asked me to call them before. This was the first time, and they got it passed, right, Susie? It was amazing. And it was something that Dan and Greg and everybody, they really wanted it. And Ted Cruz wanted it badly. They all wanted it, so we got it in Texas. But you're going to have it, more and more people are talking about school choice. Good thing. This will be the godsend for mothers like Angelina Banks from Philadelphia. Where's Angelina? Where is Angelina? Oh, you are very pretty. She went out for a second and she's coming back. Okay? Where's Ange? Come on over here, Angelina. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, wow. How are you? I won't ask you where you've been, okay? I promise. But it's great to have you. It's great to have. I mentioned your name. I said, where's Angelina? He said, she'll be right back, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And Aubrey and Ava Jane, Angelina says the tax relief for child care and education are a foundation for stability and dignity. I think those were your words, right? Stability and dignity. Good words for her family. And with the One Big Beautiful Bill, we're delivering both, empowering hundreds of thousands of families to choose the public, private, charter, religious school, or the home school of their choice. And Angelina, thank you very much for being with us. Beautiful. Beautiful. So this bill will also be the single most important piece of border legislation ever to cross the floor of Congress. We will hire 3,000 new Border Patrol officers and 10,000 new ICE agents. And these people are great. I tell you what, I got to know a lot of them. And we have tremendous representation. They've been for me from day one. In fact, I shouldn't say this, but they endorsed me when I first ran, almost at the beginning, and they weren't sure if they were allowed to endorse me, and they said, we don't care, we're endorsing you, but they were great, and they've been my friends ever since. But think of that, so we're going to hire 3,000 new Border Patrol officers, 10,000 new ICE agents, and you know, these ICE guys, they go into war zones, and they're tough, and they love our country. And if you're not going to be tough, you're not going to do well. But they are tough, and they'll break into a pack, and they call them a pack. Some of these packs come out of the jails of Venezuela. They come from places that you don't want to know about. They're gang members that have been all sent in here through Biden's open door stupid policy. The dumbest policy, I think, well, we have a lot of dumb policies, but the worst, I think, is open borders, where anybody comes into our country totally unvetted, totally unchecked. And they're drug dealers, and they're people that we don't want them, and they're murderers, you know, they're murderers. I told you, over 11,000 murderers, they're in here. 50% of those, by the way, murdered more than one person, and they came in, no check-in, no anything. It's so sad what that man has done to this country. We should never forget it, okay? We should never, ever forget it. With that whole group of people, I don't even think it was him. He didn't believe in open borders. He didn't believe in men playing in women's sports or transgender for everybody. But what that group of people has done to this country will never, ever, I don't think we can ever allow history to forget it. What they've done to us is so sad. We're going to fully fund the final sections of Border Wall, impose a new remittance tax on money sent back to foreign countries, and dramatically increase deportations to a bare minimum of 1 million illegal aliens per year. And what we're doing is we're really going after the criminal aliens, of which we have plenty to work with. People say, well, that's a lot, isn't it? Well, remember, these countries are very smart. They're headed up by people I know. In almost all cases, they're very smart people, and they're people of great common sense. They're not sending their good people out. They're sending the bad people out, and they put them into caravans. I think I came up with that name, but somebody did. It's a great name, a caravan. Thousands and sometimes as many as 30,000 people walking right into our country. Again, last month we had none. Think of that. It's almost, people say it's almost impossible. But they come in, and at a minimum, they're not people that work very hard. They're people that are on welfare. They don't want them. They don't want them. They give them to us. It's incredible what's happened, and it's so sad to see. It's so sad. It could make you just sick to your stomach when you think about it. I was going to say it could make you cry, but I like to pretend I never cry. I don't want to be a crier, but it makes you sick to think of what they did. What they did to us is just sick. And guys, if we didn't have a Tom Homan, and if we didn't have some of the guys that we have working so hard and dangerously, the country wouldn't stand a chance. But we're getting them out, not as fast as they came in, because they came in and you'd see hundreds of thousands pour into our country in a day. But we're getting them out. And here today is Angel Dad Joe Abraham, the Angel Moms and Angel Dads. These are incredible people. They lost their precious 20-year-old daughter, Katie, in a hit and run after she was struck by an illegal alien from Guatemala. Katie was stopped at a traffic light, rear-ended, full force, going 60, 70 miles an hour right into the back of her car while she stopped. And she died immediately. And her killer, I think you could really say the killer, fled the scene. And Joe, we will end this invasion once and for all, and we're always going to remember the memory of Katie, that beautiful, beautiful 20-year-old daughter of yours. Where's Joe? Is she around here? Joe? Come here, Joe. Come here. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Thank you, Joe, very much. Also with us is Sarah Stewart from Kerrville, Texas, who lost her brother to the fentanyl epidemic that has inundated her small town. Our bill provides billions and billions of dollars to stop fentanyl and other illicit narcotics. We're also charging other countries like Mexico, Canada, and China billions of dollars in taxes that we put on because they've allowed people that are selling fentanyl to go through their countries, or in the case of China, they send it here, and paying a lot of money at least, but would rather stop it. I think we're doing a big job of that, but would rather stop it. And other illicit narcotics pouring across the border and stealing more American lives. And thank you. Sarah will not rest until that fight is done. We're going to get that fight done. Sarah Stewart is where? Sarah? Hi, Sarah. Beautiful. Thank you. Good guy, huh? Yeah. I can see that. I also want to thank the president of the National Border Patrol. His name is Paul Perez. He's been with me from the beginning, and Brandon before him. These are great people. I've gotten very friendly with some of these people from Border Patrol and ICE, because I'd call them once every 2 or 3 days. How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? If you remember, Kamala was the border czar, and in 4 years she never made one call to Paul or Brandon or anybody else. And I'd like to have Paul come up, say a couple of words, if you're here. Paul? Where are you, Paul? Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
President Trump made promises that he's kept. Now it's time for Congress to back him up. We need to end the chaotic and recklessness that Biden allowed into this country. The millions of people that are out there, we're going to get with this big, beautiful bill. We've got the funding, we've got the technology, we need everything in that bill to get it done so that no more families are victimized. And those that have victimized families, we can go get them out with ICE. Our officers and agents are not afraid. We're ready to take this fight to them, and we've been so because of President Trump's leadership. Thank you, sir.
He's been a great friend of the country. He really has, and he's worked with Tom Homan and Christie and all the people that work so hard. They have been incredible. And you know, I wasn't going to do this, but I see Tom Homan is sitting there, and you know, I have to call him up. Look at that. I don't call up the Speaker of the House. I don't call up Marco or Peter or anyone, but I want to call this guy because this guy is keeping us very, very safe. Come on up, Tom.
Well, look, I think this issue of the big, beautiful bill should be nonpartisan. I don't know what the hell's the matter with everybody up in Congress? People are dying every day. ICE is arresting 3 times as many criminals that the Biden administration did. We're taking public safety threats and national security threats off the street every single day. But we got over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories walking the streets of this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. This should be a no-brainer. The more resources we get, if we get this bill passed, we got more agents on the road. We buy more beds, we get more transportation flights. More agents means more bad guys arrested, taken off the streets of this country every single day. Every day we arrest a public safety threat or national security threat. This makes this country much safer. Who the hell would be against that? And I get irritated, I get pissed off because I'm sick of meeting angel moms and dads. You want to talk about family separation? They bury their children. So I've done this since 1984. I've worked for 6 different presidents. No one has had the success of the Trump administration. We got the most secure border in the history of this nation today. But we need more border wall. Border walls save lives. Women and children can't get over that wall, which means they go to a place where there's not a wall. And what's waiting on them? The men and women of the Border Patrol who take care of the humanitarian needs and save their lives. We already got fentanyl seizures down half. Fentanyl seizures should be 100%. We should have 0 fentanyl coming to this country. We need money to help secure that border at a higher level. Stop the fentanyl from coming in. Stop the sex trafficking of women and children. Stop the known inspected terrorists coming across that border. Right now, I was looking at the stats today. ICE is arresting a record number of known suspected terrorists in this country along with the FBI. With more money, we can arrest more of these people, make this country safer. This is a nonpartisan issue. Let's make this country safe again. So to the Democrats and the Republicans and the Independents, I don't care who you're from, pass the bill so we make this country safe, so we can stop the violence against ICE officers. Let's make this country safe again, and without that bill, it's going to be a hard road. We got a lot of people to look for, a lot of people to arrest, a lot of national security threats we know are in this country. We need to find them. We need more money to do that. We need more agents to do that. For God's sake, let's pass this bill and get this done.
He got so angry he didn't even shake my hand or look at me. Just But he's right. He's right. And we have no money for the border if we don't pass this bill. We have virtually nothing. And so we're going to get it done for you, Tom, and for all of the people that have worked with you. It's been amazing, the job you've done. And just in finishing, look, this is the largest tax cut in the history of our country. They want to give you, the Democrats want to give you the biggest tax increase in the history of our country. They have things, whether it's border or economic development or no tax on tips and Social Security and no tax on overtime and all these different things. There are hundreds of things here. It's so good. And we're going to also cut costs. We're cutting $1.7 trillion in this bill, and you're not going to feel any of it. And your Medicaid is left alone. It's left the same. Your Medicare and your Social Security are strengthened. We're not cutting. The Democrats are going to destroy all 3 of them because it's not sustainable. They'll end up cutting your Medicare, Medicaid in half. So we're going to do a real job. It's so important. So if you can, call your senators, call your congressmen. We have to get the vote. I want to thank you. You have been unbelievable, Mr. Speaker. You have worked round the clock for months, And, I shouldn't say this, but we don't want to have grandstanders where one or two people raise their vote. We vote no. And they do it to grandstand, that's all. Not good people. They know who I'm talking about. I call them out. But we don't need grandstanders. We have to get our country back and bring it back strong. And our country is going to be stronger, bigger, better than ever before. We're going to make it better than ever before. And that's despite the bad hand that we were dealt 6 months ago. We were dealt a really bad hand. We were dealt a sick hand. It's unbelievable. When I came back yesterday, as you know, I made a big trip to a place where we had 28 countries represented, and we did something that's never been done. They've raised the number of money, the amount of money that they spend to $1 trillion a year, and that's for world safety. But they all asked me the same question. They said, how could you have allowed this to happen to your country? I said, I didn't do it. But they said, how could you allow people to pour in? They don't understand it. They all have borders. They have fences, they have walls, or they have just strong people standing there. You can't do it. And they said to me, it's amazing that they allowed these things to happen. And it's amazing, too. I agree. As a business guy, I always like to understand where the other side's coming from. What do they want? What do they get? And, you can make good deals based on understanding the other side. I never understood the other side in this case. Why would they allow people to pour into our country unchecked? I can see people wanting people to come in, and you let them come in. You have a vetting process. You let good people. We're letting a lot of good people in, but they're coming in legally. But why would you allow people to come in that you can look at them and say, big trouble, big trouble? Why would you do it? It's nobody understands. And a lot of people say voting, but, we've got to strengthen up our elections because the voting is crooked as hell. Got to strengthen it up. But it's not that. It's either they're stupid and they're not stupid, or they hate our country. But we love our country, and we're going to stop this madness, and we're going to get this bill approved. And all of the things that I've been talking about now for 2 years on the campaign trail, and we won, remember, we won every single swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won everything. We won every, it was a landslide. We won something that nobody talks about, districts. You have thousands of districts. We won 2,750 to 505. Think of that. That's why when you see a map, the whole map is red. That stands for Republican, by the way, because it stands for a lot of other things too, but it stands for Republican with a little piece of blue on each side. But that's why, think of that, 2,750 districts to 505 districts. That's what, this was a slaughter. But it gave us a mandate to do some great things. And I want to thank John Thune, and I want to thank the Speaker, and I want to thank Marco and everybody here, They have been so incredible. Pam, you've been unbelievable as the Attorney General. We appreciate it. Not easy. Not easy. And we're coming back faster than anybody ever thought possible. I told you what they said to me on just trips by very smart people. But we're going to make this, we're going to do this very quickly. It's happening a lot faster than even I thought possible. And we're going to be celebrating very quickly, and we're going to be celebrating for a long time because we're turning our country around. We're getting our country back. And we're ruling with common sense, whether you're conservative or liberal, or as they like to say, progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore. Progressive, I think it's a beautiful word, too. That's why I call them liberal. It's too nice a word. I don't know how you can be progressive when you're turning the country backwards. But no matter what you are, it's all about common sense. And I think that's the way I've ruled. I do what's right. I want to have borders. I don't want to have transgender for anybody that happens to leave the house at a young age, the things they do. I don't want to have men playing in women's sports. That's got to be, they say it's an 80-20. I think it's a 97-3 issue. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. There was a long-distance race the other day, or at least reasonably recently, and they had a top man and they had top woman, but it was a woman's race, and the man entered. He happened to be transitioned. Isn't that lovely? And he entered the race, and he beat the champion woman by 5 hours and 14 seconds. 5 hours, that's a lot. Think of it, you're waiting 5 hours for your beautiful daughter to come in. Come on, baby, let's go. You can do it. He won by 5 hours and 14 seconds. It is crazy, and it's so demeaning, and they don't want to change. I see it the other day. Guys like Schumer, our great Palestinian senator, this guy, no, he's changed. He used to like Jewish people. Now he's totally against Jewish people. It's the most incredible transformation I think I've ever seen. But who would allow this to happen? In other sports, the same thing. Try the weightlifting numbers someday. You want to see some big differences. In a million years, the women will never catch these numbers. It's not going to happen. And it's very demeaning to women. And I don't like it when it's demeaning to women. So turning fast. We love you all. Thank you very much. And good luck. Thank you.
So there you have it, folks, tuning in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. The president just several moments ago wrapping up what he has called this one big beautiful event, a event that he took the time to remark on his desire to see this legislation getting across the finish line. He's kind of set this deadline for himself of having it done by July 4th. And we know, as we mentioned here on Live Impact News earlier today, that the Senate could potentially take this up the end of the week. That's yet to be seen, but that is the potential that we're seeing as the week shapes up. I want to go back here to the fireball. Yes, we're talking about this this light in the sky that folks have been talking about all day long. Around the midday hour, we saw a lot of videos starting to come in and reports from across the southeast. People who saw this essentially ball of fire come from the sky. And this is an interesting video here. So it looks like Skydive Carolina has sent some video. Okay. Yeah, we're going to re-rack that so you can get a... There it is. Okay, slowed down. You can really see it a lot better. Some driving pics as well. I think this is a really great shot because you can kind of see like the full tail of what's being called a bolide. So this is a large and rare fireball. It creates a sonic boom. Look at this one. Looks like maybe some Ring camera footage. I mean, absolutely spectacular. And lots of folks, as we mentioned, are talking about seeing this in different states. So there are people in the Carolinas who saw this. We were seeing reports out of Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, Florida. And this is sparking a lot of conversation. We actually just spoke today with a gentleman named Frank Strait, who talked about him seeing this with his own eyes. So this is new for you here on Live Impact News. Let's listen in once again, this gentleman describing seeing this fireball in the sky.
And the fireball occurred as we were a little west of I-26, so not far from GSP Airport, Greer, that area.
You're one of many people who have since reported seeing this fireball. And the one thing I keep wondering, Frank, as I look at dash cam and social media video is what's going through your head when you see this thing?
Well, at first I thought, oh, cool, a meteor. And in the daytime, wow, you hardly ever see that. Actually, my daughter-in-law got a better look at it than I did because she was driving and I was looking down at my phone at the time. She just pointed and said, "What is that?" I looked up and said, "Holy cow, it's a meteor." It was interesting. It was kind of red and yellow and kind of sparkly as it was coming downward. And it wasn't quite directly overhead, but it was close to overhead. So I imagine that if there were, that as low as I saw the trace from the meteor going, the sparkly, fiery trace from the meteor going downward, as low as that got, and it seemed fairly close to me, it occurred to me that it's possible a fragment of it could have reached the ground, which would have been over toward Greer had that happened, because we were on 85, just west of 26, and I was looking kind of to the right of the interstate a little bit, so that would have put it over Greer or Lyman, that general area. In upstate South Carolina. So if something would have hit the ground, that's where it would have been.
So let me get your vantage point confirmed in my brain. So if you're on 85, are you going south? So this thing is going from your right, which would have been I guess I should say 85 south is essentially like you're facing west, right? So this thing
Right.
essentially would have went from your right, which would have been north, to your left, which would have been south.
Right. We're heading toward Greenville. We're kind of between Greenville and Spartanburg where we were. So heading toward Greenville. So to the west, due west would have been a little bit right of the interstate, as in facing the
Did you see
direction.
more than one, or did you just see a singular?
Just one.
Okay. I don't know if you even had a chance to see yet. There's a report out of Henry County, Georgia, just south of Atlanta, of roof damage allegedly from this thing. I mean,
did
based
see
on
that
your
on Twitter.
based on your scientific brain, do you think that's the same fragment you saw?
It's hard to say. I didn't really get a very good look at it. My gut feeling is this is a different fragment than that, because it appeared to be much closer than hundreds of miles. But admittedly, with the short glimpse that I had of it, I can't definitively say no. Just my gut feeling is that it was probably not. It was probably a fragment that was over upstate South Carolina, or perhaps just into North Carolina.
This might be difficult to say because I know you were in a car, but could you hear anything?
No, I couldn't hear a boom or anything like that.
How long do you think it lasted for?
I saw it for literally 1 to 2 seconds. My daughter-in-law, who was driving, probably saw it for a greater duration than I did. And of course, we're looking through the windshield, so it may have lasted longer, being kind of above us. I imagine that she may have, and it may have been in her field of view for 4, maybe 5 seconds.
Have you ever seen a fireball or meteor before?
Yes, yeah, a couple of times.
Okay, how did this compare to those other experiences?
This would be one of the most impressive ones. This is only the second one I've seen during the daytime. The one I saw before was living up in Pennsylvania, and clearly a meteor fragment came down, and that one almost certainly did strike the ground somewhere in central Pennsylvania, but it was because that one I could see nearby, and it was between me and a mountain there, so I have no doubt that one did reach the ground somewhere, although I didn't see a cloud or anything from it. It was obviously very small, the one I saw up in Pennsylvania, but as far as brightness and appearance, it compares to that one pretty well.
Was there any discernible reaction from other drivers on the road who may have also been experiencing this at the same time as you?
I didn't see anything, no.
Okay.
I didn't see anybody swerve out of their lane or anything. I think most of the other drivers were focused on the road and probably didn't see it, or just caught a glimpse of it the way I did.
How would you describe, as somebody who saw it, the impact it had on the rest of your day? Was this like a thing you saw and then you just moved on with the rest of your day? Because as somebody who didn't see it, I can't stop thinking about it.
Well, if I didn't have Twitter, X, it probably would have not had a big impact on my day, because I wouldn't have been able to look down and check that and so other social media in over the following hour, and saw that a lot of other people spotted the fireball, that there may have been more than one. Turns out it may have been a larger meteor that broke up or exploded over or near Atlanta, and then several shards of it ended up landing as far east as South Carolina and North Carolina. So that resulted in it having more of an impact on my day, because I was really curious and kept checking social media to see what was going on.
Yeah, there was like a whole FOMO factor, I think, to this.
Right.
You're a trained meteorologist. Would you say your experience today is that your phone or your social media is blowing up, but this is not the field that you're actually trained in, despite the term being meteorologist?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things about meteorologists, is because we tend to be the only scientists around when something like this happens. So if there's same thing with an earthquake, or if you live in an area that has a volcano, if the volcano erupts, or if there's an earthquake, or if there's a meteor or some other event that requires some scientific knowledge, they all go running to the meteorologist. Everybody around will do that because they're the only people who really are knowledgeable about science available. So, yeah, that's one of the things that gets you thinking and trying to find resources to figure out what happened. And of course, the only thing I had with me was my phone, so I really couldn't do the things I wanted to do, like look and see if there was something showing up on weather radar or looking at weather satellite. But using social media, you can check that, and I saw that apparently the GOES satellites lightning detection saw a couple of flashes over the Carolinas today, so that was probably some fireballs from the little shards of the meteor that ended up over the Carolinas.
Yeah, we know the National Weather Service office in Charleston at one point posted some lightning mapping data that showed something over the North Carolina-Virginia line, kind of along I-95. But I mean, my eyes are going right to the data point you just mentioned, which is that a flash of light on the lightning mapper over Atlanta at about 12:25. Anything else, Frank, that is worth sharing that I didn't think to ask you?
Can't think of anything, James. It's one of those things that if it would have happened years ago before social media, it would have been, oh, that's cool, and you would have moved on and maybe told somebody when you got home that evening, hey, I saw a meteor today in broad daylight. How about that? But since it's social media, in the age of social media, you can connect with other people and find that literally hundreds, maybe thousands of other people saw it. It was a fairly impressive event for a meteor event anyway.
All right, so you heard there a conversation with someone who saw this fireball today. You heard him remarking on social media and just the joy, the positivity, angle of social media, folks being able to connect over this and share their footage. We wanted to mention we do have an article up on WCNC.com and inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app, kind of explaining what we know all about this fireball. And also you can actually see so many great videos that are embedded into that article, just firsthand accounts, folks capturing things on, Ring camera or on the dashboard cam, that sort of thing. So we encourage you to check that out. Meantime, we thought it'd be a great time to explain what a bolide is. So we have this earlier interview with the American Meteor Society, and it explains all that we need to know just to be a little bit smarter about this phenomenon. Take a listen.
So hundreds of reports coming in from Thursday between 12:25 and about 12:40 across North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, of a fireball or meteor, bright streak through the sky. And also new reports coming in that we potentially had meteorite fragments that actually entered the roofs of some folks' houses down in Henry County. Joining me now to talk about this event that has really been the talk of town over the last hour is Mike Hankey, the operations manager with the American Meteor Society. Mike, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you.
So what can you tell us about the expansive size and number and frequency of reports that you've been getting in on the fireball log on the American Meteor Society website?
Well, I just started working on this maybe 20 minutes ago, so I'm putting it all together still, but we've received over 200 reports in like less than 2 hours of this event. They all come in like right away. And that did cause some like downtime on our site, but we were still able to collect all the reports and process them and print a map that shows the witnesses and the trajectory path that's estimated from those reports. I can send this to you in an email. It's on our website now, but you would want to show this map probably if we're talking about it.
Sure.
There's a blue line that we compute, and I say estimated because we're just taking in what people are telling us. It's not like, it's scientific, but it's eyewitness reports. So there's an
inaccurate. Can you describe for us where did those the reports, where do they spread from and to? What areas of territory are covered there?
They're mostly from, it looks to be the east of Atlanta and around the Atlanta area. A lot of times these can be impacted by weather. So a meteorite like this really could have been seen. Like we have reports from North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, but there's no reports from Alabama, which tells me that there was some type of weather maybe that was obstructing some views. But yeah, quite a lot of people to the north, south, and east of Atlanta have reported this, and it looks that it occurred just south of Atlanta.
And for those who see, Mike, for those who see something like this in the sky and they wonder what on earth is this, can you describe to us very briefly what is a fireball, what is a bolide, how do you classify them, and what's that process of it kind of lighting up as it comes into Earth's atmosphere? What are the physics going on there?
So every time an object hits Earth's atmosphere from space, it's going from a vacuum to a dense atmosphere, and that causes friction, and it causes this illumination of light that we see in the sky, and that light's usually directly proportional to the speed and the size of the object. So larger objects tend to be brighter, and so on, and last longer in the sky. When an object reaches deep enough in the atmosphere, it creates a sonic boom. We see this with the space shuttle, with SpaceX launches that come back down, and we see them with meteorites, meteorite falls. When an asteroid, a fragment of an asteroid comes through the atmosphere, it survives because it's large enough and the angle was just right on the Earth. It breaks apart and hundreds of stones fall to the ground. If it happens in a populated area, which it sounds like this one did, you're going to potentially get rocks hitting houses and that kind of thing.
And those rocks hitting houses, how fast estimated would they be traveling? Do they slow down a lot? Obviously, they slow down quite a bit in Earth's atmosphere, but if they're creating a sonic boom, they must be moving quickly with a lot of force.
They are moving very fast, and when they hit Earth's atmosphere, they could be going 50,000 miles per hour or faster, but they quickly decelerate, and by the time they come and they stop all their cosmic velocity at like 20,000 or 30,000 feet up, and by the time they hit your roof, they're going about the speed of a golf ball or maybe a little bit faster. So still hundreds of miles an hour, but a far cry from the 50,000 miles an hour. You don't want to get hit by one. They can cause a lot of harm, damages. They'll go through multiple floors of a home oftentimes. But believe it or not, it is a blessing to have your home hit by a meteorite because it's a very rare thing to happen, as long as no one's hurt in the process.
That is amazing. And like I mentioned at the top of this, we do have a reporter on the way to Henry County where we have had reports from emergency managers there that actually one of those tiny little fragments went so quickly through someone's roof. Is it safe to say, Mike, that the people who thought that they felt an earthquake or they heard that boom, that in fact was from this, are you classifying it as a fireball, a meteor, a meteorite? How are you classifying it?
This would be technically considered a bolide because it explodes, and when a meteor comes in, it'll just be a normal meteor or a shooting star for like a Bootid or a Perseid meteor, and then the next step up is a fireball where it's brighter than the planet Venus up to the full moon. And when we get brighter than that, especially when it explodes in this terminal flash and it's accompanied with the sonic booms and the meteorites, those are called bolides, and that just means that the body broke apart in its flight in.
So a bolide, so that sounds a little bit more rare. How common do we see those in anywhere on Earth on a given year? Do you have any stats on that?
I mean, the U.S. government has some statistics on the largest bolides that are 1 meter or above on their website, and even still, there's going to be maybe a dozen or more of those events per year. I would guess this event will end up on that site based on the reports that I'm seeing so far. But fireballs and even meteorites are much more common. They actually do fall every week, and we get hundreds of reports like this, or maybe not exactly like this of this magnitude, but we get hundreds of fireball reports a year, and there's usually 10 or more meteorites that are recovered every year across the globe. And now, considering most of the planet's ocean, that means there's a lot more meteorites actually hit.
Exactly. And Mike, for those who may have seen it or heard the sonic boom, or maybe they had a dash camera or a Ring doorbell camera that caught that on camera, where can they send reports to you all? How can they do that so that you can better map out the trajectory of who all saw this bolide?
Anyone who saw the meteor or recorded it on a camera can submit that data and the video files through the amsmeteors.org website. That's the American Meteor Society. And we catalog all of those sightings and make them available through our event page. So if you're interested about this event and you want to see where it might have happened or how your view compared to other people's, you can see our map there.
And let me ask you one more question, Mike. Is it possible that this was associated with that, is it called Boothie meteor shower that's going on? Or could there be more larger meteors or bolides to come? Or do you think this is a one-off event by itself?
These types of events are usually what we call sporadic, meaning they're just random and they aren't associated with some other known meteor shower. I'm going to stick with that. You know, it's not impossible to have a large fragment of a comet also produce a sonic boom. But considering we have reports of rocks on the ground, meteorites can't be associated with a cometary meteor shower. They're always associated with an asteroid.
Well, Mike Henke with the American Meteor Society, you've been so valuable. I know that, you know, minute by minute, you're getting more reports in. Thank you so much for your time today here.
Thank you.
Once again, more information on the fireball at WCNC.com and the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. Right now, we've got some breaking new images just into the Live Impact studio regarding that ICE execution of a federal search warrant in the Kings Mountain area at a business. So we shared with you as breaking news yesterday that we had heard that ICE was doing some sort of operation at Buckeye Fire Equipment Company. Today we shared with you on the evening news that we saw that the folks who were arrested, that count had actually gone up since the last time we had checked in. So yesterday, the count was around a dozen. Today, we're hearing 30 people were arrested on site. It's an ongoing investigation, and we heard from ICE that this is focused on allegations of aggravated identity theft and potential federal crimes. We are seeing now, you can see some of these new videos. Keep in mind, this was provided to us by ICE, so we did not shoot this video. We did not edit the video. We didn't place any of the blurs. But we wanted to share what ICE has shared with us regarding what it wants to show its operations looks like inside that business. Some of it we're seeing in line with what we heard from witnesses and family members who were outside the facility, because we shared with you that folks had actually showed up and they were protesting outside when they had heard that maybe some of their loved ones were stuck inside the business for hours. So we saw the fact that there were a lot of workers were in there. We had heard, according to ICE, 300 people were inside the building at the time, and nobody was allowed to leave while the operation was underway. We'd actually heard from an employee who spoke with us immediately after the operation cleared out, talking about how she had to put her items in a bag, her cell phone, all of her particulars in a bag. And so we actually can see that happening with some of the employees in this video. So we just wanted to share that update with you. Once again, breaking new images provided by ICE of its execution of the federal search warrant at Buckeye Fire Equipment Company in Kings Mountain. We are working to learn more because we've gotten some questions from you at home pertaining to who might possibly be getting in trouble in the situation, because ICE had yesterday posed to us the fact that it had heard allegations that maybe there might have been forged documents in order to allow people to work at the facility that might not otherwise be allowed to work there and be in the country. We heard from you asking, well, does that mean they detained employees and the employer? We can't tell you that quite yet. However, we did sit down with ICE today to try to get the very latest update. So we wanted to share that extended interview with you here on Live Impact News. This is Public Affairs Officer Lindsay Williams speaking with one of our reporters, Jesse Pierre. And once again, this is pertaining to the Kings Mountain operation that we saw yesterday.
WILLIAMS, Public Affairs Officer Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Perfect. I know you talked about this already a little bit yesterday, but kind of give us the latest in the as far as how many people were taken into custody and what this overall raid, the operation, what you guys were, what the search warrant was for.
Sure. So I'll start at the back and go forward. So this operation was a federal search warrant conducted with Homeland Security investigations and the state, federal, and local partners based on allegations of aggravated, identity theft and potential other federal crimes. And so, as a result of the initial operation, 30 people were arrested on site, and we expect that number to increase as the investigation continues.
And when you say other federal crimes, what are you referring to, or what are some examples of that?
I don't want to get into the specifics, but what I'll tell you is when it comes to identity theft, there are usually a host of other associated crimes, money laundering and handling of funds, payroll fraud, those sorts of things typically go hand in hand, but we don't want to say those things just yet because that's what the investigation is designed to uncover.
Is there any, I don't know if there's something you would know, but, how long have you guys been, I guess, working on this? Obviously, when you're looking at an operation where there's so many agents and so forth involved, how long does an operation like this take to put together? And then how many agents would you say were involved in all of this, I guess?
Operations like this can take years to gather the appropriate evidence and to get the warrants and to do the research. I'm not sure how long this one exactly took, but I think we're over a year of planning and search warrants and surveillance and things. So it's a pretty in-depth process to get this many people together and to get on one accord and to marshal those resources.
And then when we're talking about allegations, and whatever you can't answer, just tell me you can't answer. But when you're talking about allegations, is it like a tip that you guys received? Is it something that you guys, just have like an employee tip, someone that how does that work?
Without the specifics, I would say multiple sources of information have led us to open this investigation.
And then you guys had search warrants. You detained about 30. There are more charges possibly that could come. Were these 30 the specific 30 that you were that you went there for? And like you had a list of names that you were pretty much searching for, kind of thing, or did you end up taking others because maybe they didn't have proper documentation and so forth while they were there?
I can't get into those specifics either, but I can tell you, we started with the premise of our search warrant. And as we did the investigation, if we uncovered other crimes, we would action on those as well.
In situations like this, or and maybe you can speak in general about it, but when we're talking about identity theft, well, okay, I guess, is there any wrongdoing in the company that, is there any wrongdoing on behalf of Buckeye Fire Equipment in all of this?
That's what the investigation will unfold and determine if they're involved or not. But I can just tell you that that's part of our scope of our investigation to determine if they are involved or who's involved and to what level.
In cases like, and this is more a general question, if an employer is aware that they have some folks who are illegal or have hired someone who's illegal and so forth, what are some of the consequences that they can face in all of this?
It varies case by case, but if in general, if an employer is found to employ illegal aliens, they can receive civil fines from hundreds of dollars up to millions, just depending on each case. And then in sometimes egregious cases, even jail time.
The 30 that you've detained, where do they, and I don't know if there's a specific place you guys take people, but where are they being held? Do they have access to, their family as far as even phone conversations and so forth? Like, what is the next steps for them? What's their process like?
Right. So jail is jail. Like, you get your phone calls, you have access to lawyers and your legal counsel, just due process. It's no different. It's all the same. So some are in local jails, some are in other holding facilities, but they all are they're not disappeared. If that's where you're going with what you're asking me, they have access to phones and the internet and all the other things.
So how long would they be seen in this case? Or I don't know if there's a time frame as far as like, so I guess what's the process from here for them when it comes to the legalities of everything?
Right. Well, that part, the prosecution part of it, is not our purview, but they'll go before a magistrate or a judge, and they'll get bonds, and they'll do all of those things that any criminal who gets arrested gets.
Got it. And then also too, is it, I don't know when one of the things that I get told all the time is that, how aggressive they feel like ICE agents are, or, the fact that they come with the weapons, their mask on their face here and there, is there a process, or is there like they have to announce themselves or say I'm ICE, or anything that you can talk about in regards to that?
Sure, I guess we're on sort of different subject, but all of our ICE officers and agents are marked. They wear markings on their body armor that say ICE or HSI or federal police or whatever their particular agency or unit is. And so they announce themselves. And if there's a circumstance where they need to do something for expediency, and safety, they will encounter whomever they need to encounter and then announce themselves. The person doesn't think they're being kidnapped. They know they're being duly arrested by, a law enforcement officer.
For folks who do get detained by someone who is a federal agent and so forth, what is your message to them to make sure that it goes, safely and so forth? If even if they feel that they are not breaking any laws, or they are actually a citizen and so forth, what would be your message to them?
I think the message goes the same for anybody that's encountered by law enforcement. Comply, listen to the instructions you're given, and respond accordingly. That is most simply.
Did you have any thing else you want to add or share, or you think that there's anything I missed, or?
No, I think you're pretty thorough, and we're all, pushed up against the limits of what I can answer, because this is a day-old investigation, so there's not much I can share.
Perfect. And then I know I had sent in a FOIA request. And I don't know if you saw that email from me, but like, do you guys have an estimate of like raids that have taken place or so forth, or the amount of folks detained this year, or like, do you have an average on? Because obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm assuming things have ramped up with the new administration pushing more detentions and deportations and so forth. But have you seen that? And I don't know, how long have you worked with ICE?
6 years.
Oh, okay. So have you seen a change in trends, or, detentions and so forth happening in general?
Yes. The president and the administration have been very clear that they want us to do more. And as a result, we're doing more.
And do you have any, do you have any, and you might not have this to tell me, but to send me any data or anything like that?
Yeah, I can work to get you some like local arrest numbers. I'm pretty sure you're gonna want to go from like January 20th till now, or so I'll get you as most current information as possible.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then if I can get like the few years before too, so then I can be able to compare.
That's going to take more doing, but we'll see. And then you say you sent me a FOIA. I don't accept FOIA requests because just my position is not something that I process for you. I will send you the link. It's on our website, but I'll send it to you in an email or where you can go to request that. You would have to request the FOIA for the past 2-3, what you're trying to do, that comparison. But I can reasonably get you like our numbers, like as of January.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate you. Thank you for making yourself available. And if I have any more questions, I'll reach out.
You know where to find me.
Yes. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And definitely, folks, you kind of heard there with that conversation, as the investigation develops and potentially more information can be shared, we will share more information. We wanted to talk a bit about the draft. Are we going to do this, Jeb?
Let's rock and roll.
Okay.
Vanessa Rufus bringing you Hornets draft news.
I don't know if I can live up to the expectations. Hopefully our sports director, Nick Carbone, comes in here shortly. But Hornets just made their 2 picks back-to-back here. And so we are seeing drafted here in the 2nd round, Sion James, another Duke player. So we're building the North Carolina contingency for the Charlotte Hornets. And then with the next selection that they had right after, Creighton Blue Jays center Ryan Kalkbrenner. And I know, Jeb, you were here for the draft special last night. You were telling me that Sion James had come up already in conversation with some of your experts that you had
so
here.
For those of you who watched last night, Jeremy was very big on Sion James. He was Sion. We weren't totally sure the pronunciation. Hopefully someone watching can help us. Nick will be in here shortly to give us the officials.
Nick, come in here.
But no, he was really big on him. He said he was going to go to Jeff Peterson's front door and beg him to make this pick, so I'm sure he'll be very happy. And then Ryan Kalkbrenner, a phenomenal ad, a position where the Hornets needed some depth after losing Mark Williams and Nick Richards. Yes, they have Nurkic, Moussa Diabate, but this Kalkbrenner pick I think a lot of people are happy with as well. And speak
of the devil.
Here we
and
go.
He shall arrive.
The Blue Devil? The Blue Devil, which is now, it's
now we got another. Okay, let's bring in Nick.
Carbone
Nick's still
on the
getting
spot.
situated. Okay, so we just saw the picks back to back. What do you think?
Yeah, if you had asked me before the entire draft started last night if the Hornets would take both of these picks consecutively early in the 2nd round, 33 and 34, I would have said no way. Usually those are, chips to use in trades. But the Hornets made that big trade last night, sending Mark Williams to Phoenix, getting the 29th pick, picking Liam McNeely, and then a future first in 2029. So that combined with, that open roster spot combined with the fact that Charlotte, that this draft in the 2nd round had these experienced kind of potential NBA role players at the top of the 2nd round, I think was very enticing and hard to pass up using both of those picks. And Jeff Peterson, the president of basketball ops, last night when asked, said, yeah, we've got the roster space for 2 more players. So I think with Sion James, our co-host Jeremy Grandison sat here last night and was like pounding the table for Sion James. He's somebody that brings a lot of toughness, a lot of defensive intensity. He's 22 years old. And I think what we've seen with these 4 picks, guys, is that Jeff Peterson and the Hornets have a type. They have picked 4 guys from big-time winning college basketball programs that have had a lot of success, so guys who really want to win and know how to work to win, and guys that are very competitive and well-rounded in their game. I think you can check all the boxes for all 4 of the draft picks, but Sion James is somebody that could carve out a role for himself for a very long time in the NBA. Maybe he's not an all-star at any point, but could be a part of playoff teams, and certainly the Hornets hope that it's here. And then you trade a center, you get one with the 34th pick, and Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton. One interesting note about Kalkbrenner playing for Creighton, they had battles against Liam McNeely and UConn, and they were very testy. So I'll be really interested in the first conversations there. But Kalkbrenner has a lot of potential in the pick and roll game. He's working on the defense. He can step out and hit 3-pointers. Mark Williams, who they just traded to Phoenix, I think there was some frustration there, not just with the health and sometimes lack thereof, but also handful of years into the league, he hadn't really developed that 3-point shot. So Kalkbrenner comes in with it. And, there's a level of maturity with all these players, whether they're 19 like they were last night or whether they're 22 and 23 like they are tonight.
So you kind of alluded to this, and I did want to ask because, obviously we talk about the talent and the stats sometimes with these players, but I almost feel like you alluded to when you started talking about the pedigrees and what they've been through and what they've accomplished already.
They've been coached hard.
It's almost like a culture shift.
Yes, it is absolutely a culture shift, one that I think new Hornets ownership and new front office management wants to put in place. And that doesn't mean that the guys on the current roster are all bad culture guys and don't have that mentality, but they need to add more of those types of players to help promote it along. Like, I think Brandon Miller is that type of player, and we thought so when they drafted him. I think Grant Williams, who they brought in, and unfortunately I think we saw the fruits of his absence last year when he wasn't with the team. So yes, it's absolutely a type like these blue-collar, lunch pail dudes who just want to win, and they are willing to take on any role on their team at any given time. Start with Con Knipple. He's kind of Robin to Cooper Flagg's Batman until Batman goes down in the ACC tournament. Con shoulders the load the rest of the way. He can do a lot of different things. Liam McNeely had to play a lot of point guard for UConn last year. That affected his shooting stats and probably affected his draft position to where he was available at 29. Sion James is somebody that literally he's not going to show up in the box score with eye-popping stats every night for Duke, but you look through the box sheet, and if you know what to look for, you know he's doing a lot of different jobs at the same time. And Ryan Kalkbrenner, wants to get it done on offense and has a bit of a defensive game to him as well.
So I'm going to go off just a bit on a tangent. It was only because Jeb and I were talking about this just moments before you came in. So with the Liam McNeely situation, is that not finalized? And this is just me as just a casual basketball watcher.
I know where you're talking about the hats.
The hats and
the logo, the fact that it says he's a Phoenix Sun.
And it's just not finalized?
It is not finalized yet. The NFL does it completely the opposite way. When the Falcons traded up to go select James Pierce from Charlotte in the first round, he's got a Falcons hat on. I mean, he's at his own draft party, so he can wear whatever hat he wants. But they would have given him one there too. There's a lot of frustration, even on the NBA's broadcasts and their partners. Like, why do we have to do this? This is backwards. I find it comical, and it also creates like generational memes. Unfortunately, a couple of those have gone against the Hornets, where you see Oklahoma City Thunder MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's forever in a Hornets hat on that draft night. So, and there's lots of examples of that. It is very confusing, though. Even in here last night on the stream, after the Hornets made their pick, and we're breaking that down, and I'm kind of looking, I thought Duke's Kamen Malawach actually did get drafted by Houston for like 10 minutes, and then he was, or maybe it was a while before he got traded. I literally have no idea, but he went up there as a Rocket. So it's confusing. I just think it's kind of funny.
Well, and I think kind of adding to the, if we'll call it humor of the situation, the fact that it was Mark Williams that was sent to the Phoenix Suns. So it was like,
yeah, it is.
Is there a physical that's going to
Well, yeah. I mean, if Mark Williams, if and when he passes his physical with the Phoenix Suns, I think we should call it a modern medical miracle and have it studied for years, right? I mean, I don't know how that works, but I guess we're over that now. And the Phoenix Suns have a knack for trading for Charlotte Hornets centers. They have Plumlee, they have Williams, and they have Nick Richards. So, I made the joke at the beginning of this round that they were trying to draft one because they just like him so much for some reason. But hey, I think the Charlotte Hornets will take that.
Yeah. So what comes next here? Because today we saw that you had flagged us on some new video that came in of the new draftees arriving. They're already here in Charlotte.
They make a quick trip, and both of these guys were in the green room in Brooklyn talking about Knipple and McNeely. So they flew down here probably late morning, early afternoon. Obviously a private flight and private runway, private hangar, but there was a little Hornets party for them. So they got a chance to, get off the plane, get off the tarmac, right into the hangar, and meet some special fans there. Hugo the Hornet there as well, and they actually addressed these fans a little bit and told them how excited they were. And then a couple of hours after that, at about 2 o'clock, I was over at a church over in the Myers Park area where a Hornets official kids camp, basketball camp was happening. And much to the kids' surprise, guess who walked in but the newest Hornets, Con Knipple and Liam McNeely. So it was really, really neat to watch that. A couple of the kids, I could see they saw Con in the corner and were like, wait a minute. And then they saw the cameras come in and a couple of them caught on.
We got the video of that too.
The best part of this visit here was they opened it up to questions from the kids.
Oh, amazing.
And the old saying is the kids say the darndest things. Well, I think in this day and age of social media, kids ask the boldest things.
The best questions.
I remember being at kids' camps, and we would always ask, the Patriots players, how much do you make $1 million?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. But some of these kids were asking, what are you going to do if you get injured? And did you want the Hornets to draft you? And would you rather play with LeBron or LaMelo? And Khan and Liam said LaMelo, of course, and that they want to dunk on LeBron and they want to beat Cooper Flagg. They're not, they're his friend, but they want to beat him. So there were some funny moments there, and they took part in some drills with the kids. They had a lot of fun. So and they will be introduced, all of the draft picks, which appears to be 4 at this point. I don't think they can fit. I don't think there's space unless they trade somebody for a pick. But I think they're sticking with these guys for all the reasons I outlined. They're all going to be introduced tomorrow in South Bend. We'll be there. We'll have one-on-ones with each and every one of them to let our audience get to know them a little better.
Yeah, I mean, this is really neat. When I think of the bigger picture too, we talked about this kind of culture shift that's happening, and I mean, this is unrelated, but I just kind of look in the bigger picture, all the renovations that they're doing right now at Spectrum Center. I just feel like there does seem to be a big investment into the fan experience overall, winning games, hopefully, and also enjoying, the environment that you're in as well.
Yeah, the relatively new now, and we can still call them that, co-owners, Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall, have said from the beginning, and some people watching and listening might know what I'm about to say, they want this to be the premier franchise in the NBA. I mean, it's going to take a lot of steps to get to that point, considering where they are now. But part of that is 2 straight summers of renovations at Spectrum Center to make the front-facing and back-facing, back of the house part of the facility up to par. And they're building a brand new practice facility, offices, retail, right across Caldwell Street there in that old gravel parking lot too. So that's just a part of it. This is the on-court part of it. Mm-hmm. And they've tabbed Jeff Peterson, who's still in his mid-30s, as the guy. You'll notice when the draft picks come in, it's not GM and coach, it's not GM and scout, it's Jeff Peterson. It's his show, and he's clearly putting his stamp on this organization with this draft.
Do you think he's going to speak tonight at all?
He is going to speak, yep. So we will have sound from both of the picks tonight, and we will have sound from Jeff Peterson tonight. I'd love them to do that now, because last night, it was funny, when they split the draft into 2 nights, I was like, well, surely they'll be, night 1 will be earlier. It was not. I think Jeff Peterson spoke, and Danielle Stein and our photojournalist Tony Gutowski were down there, and I think he spoke well after midnight last night. So hoping for an earlier night, and we'll get you guys some of those elements too.
Yeah. I mean, I remember doing the 11 o'clock news last night with you.
Oh, yeah. We found out about Liam McNeely's pick right at the end of sports.
And that was late.
Yeah. So that you're talking right before 11:30 in an 8 o'clock draft. So Liam McNeely had to wait probably a longer time than he had imagined to hear his name. But I'll just totally insight from being around these 2 guys today. I'm sure Khan is fired up, but he's very understated. Mm-hmm. Liam is so excited. You can tell he was having a blast. He is thrilled. So I'm really, and their families were there. Everybody just seemed so excited to be in Charlotte, be part of the Hornets, and be part of what was going on today. But I thought Liam was having the best time.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's NBA or otherwise, I always feel like, for me personally, I mean, other than hearing from, the players, I love to hear from the families. That's one of the things that gets me choked up when you see, mom or dad or whoever that important figure was in that person's life, tearing up, knowing how much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears went into getting to this one moment.
We should invite the Knippel family in, but we're going to need more chairs and a lot more microphones because of all the brothers. And dad comes from a big family, and everybody's named K something.
Yeah.
They're a fascinating family, but what they're all about is basketball, and I think that is part of the equation besides the skill on the court as to why they drafted him, is he is all ball.
Yeah. I mean, watching last night, all the brothers lined up, almost like, did they do it by height?
Well, they
too?
called the dad and his brothers the Flying Knippels or something, when they won some basketball tournament. So, and you can tell Khan's the eldest because, he kind of keeps them humble and grounded. Somebody said, are they all going to be in the NBA? He said, they got a lot of work to do. So big bro is looking out for them, but making sure they stay on their P's and Q's.
Well, he knows best.
Yep.
All right. Nick, anything you want to leave us with before we wrap things up?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to hear from these guys soon, so I'm happy to jump back in and shove you guys some of that sound. I think these are going to be 2 fascinating guys to hear from. And then Jeff Peterson, overall wanting to know just about big picture, what the through line is between these 4 players.
Yeah.
They're not all the same player, but they have a lot of the same characteristics.
Yeah, very interesting. All right,
Yep.
Nick, thank you so
You
much.
got it.
I know a busy.
Oh, yeah,
I don't
but
even
we
want to
lo-
say
we
last
love the
2
draft.
days. I mean, because I feel like you've been on the go for like weeks.
We
at
love
this
the
point.
draft. Jeb too. So shout out Jeb.
Good job, y'all. Good job with that special last night. All right, folks, here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we've had a very interesting, diverse and topic stream for you tonight. I love that we got the Hornets information breaking here for you on Live Impact News. Of course, stay tuned for more as you keep it here on WCNC Plus. We say this, we like to remind you time and time again, but you know, we transition from one program to the next, so all you have to do is keep it here to stay up to date with the latest. Of course, 11 o'clock news will come on at 11, but right here on WCNC Plus. With that, we want to turn to a briefing that we weren't able to carry all of earlier this afternoon, and that's the White House briefing. And Israel, Iran, that is a big topic that we're seeing addressed. Obviously, one big beautiful bill is a big topic of discussion at this briefing. So with that, we will play for you now in progress where we left off with the briefing with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Trade Ambassador Jamieson Greer. I speak to him frequently. He's working very hard, and he has had very good and productive discussions with many of our key trading partners.
And on the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's conversations on the Hill right now about the Medicaid cuts. Yeah, I'm curious if the final bill that the president's been talking about comes to him and it has Medicaid cuts in it, will he sign it, or would he rather just Congress do away with those cuts?
I think our friends in both the Senate and the House know exactly where the president stands on Medicaid. He wants to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, and they are working to do that in the Senate right now. Jennifer.
Follow up on that, on the Big Beautiful Bill. Is there enough time for Congress to work through the issues it needs to work through? I'm saying, does the president need to move back his deadline a little bit?
We expect that bill to be on the president's desk for signature by July 4th. I know that there was a ruling by the Senate parliamentarian this morning. Look, this is part of the process. This is part of the inner workings of the United States Senate, but the president is adamant about seeing this bill on his desk here at the White House by Independence Day.
And then on Israel, is there a date set for the Prime Minister to visit the White House yet? Is he coming in a couple weeks?
There isn't a date, but the Prime Minister has expressed interest in coming to the White House to meet with the president and come to Washington. The president is obviously very open to that, but we don't have a date. When we do, we'll let you all know. Kate.
The president suggested he was open to sending more Patriot air defense missiles to Ukraine. Is that going to happen? Any other assurances that he made directly to Zelensky when they met?
I'll let the president speak on that. That was a private conversation between he and President Zelensky. But the meeting was a good meeting, and it was a meeting towards progress. And the president, as he said, repeatedly wants to see this war come to an end. But I'll let him speak on that specific point.
And Witkoff yesterday suggested that there would be more countries signing on to the Abraham Accords. What's the timeline on that, and which countries specifically is the administration looking to have sign on?
Well, the president is certainly hopeful that more countries in the region will sign on to the Abraham Accords. Again, we want to see in long, withstanding, and durable peace in the Middle East, and that's the way to do it. And when the president met with the new president of Syria, that was one of the requests that he made for Syria to sign on to the Abraham Accords. I don't have a timeline for you, but this administration wants to see that happen, and our partners in the region should know that. Rachel.
Thanks so much. Just to follow back up on the meeting that the president mentioned about wanting to have this meeting with the Iranians next week. Clearly there's a willingness here from the administration to want to meet with Iranian officials.
All right, more on this topic to come, of course. Keep it here for WCNC Charlotte News at 11. That will come on, of course, in just a couple of hours here on WCNC Plus. With that, we do want to thank you so much for joining us here on Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus alongside producer Jeb Goldman. Have a great night.